They picked on the quiet kid. Huge mistake. His secret fighting skills left them shaking. The hallways of Westlake High School bustled with the usual Monday morning chaos. Students rushed to lockers, conversations echoed off walls, and amongst it all 15-year-old Ravi Chen tried his best to navigate unnoticed. 5'6" with a slightly pudgy build, he kept his dark eyes downcast, his black hair falling across his forehead in a way that helped him hide from the world. It was Ravi's third week at Westlake, and he'd already established a routine. Arrive early, stick to walls, speak only when necessary, and leave as quickly as possible when the final bell rang. Moving to this suburban Connecticut town from San Francisco had been hard enough. The last thing he wanted was to draw attention to himself. "Yo, check out Pudge coming through." The voice belonged to Damon Reeves, a junior with broad shoulders, a varsity jacket, and a perpetual smirk. Flanking him were Tyler Watson and Chris Hoffman, his ever-present shadows who laughed on cue. Ravi's shoulders tensed, but he kept walking, eyes fixed on the blue-speckled linoleum floor. "I'm talking to you, new kid," Damon said, stepping directly into Ravi's path. "You deaf or something?" "No," Ravi mumbled, trying to sidestep. Damon mirrored his movement, blocking him again. "What's the rush? We just want to welcome you properly to Westlake." His smile didn't reach his eyes. Tyler sniggered. "Yeah, we're the welcoming committee. I'm just trying to get to class," Ravi said quietly. "Oh, hear that? He's a good student." Damon reached out, shoving Ravi's shoulder just hard enough to make him stumble back a step. "You know what happens to teachers' pets around here?" Ravi said nothing, his face carefully blank despite the anger flickering inside. "Don't engage. It'll only make it worse." He'd heard his grandfather's voice in his head countless times these past weeks. "I asked you a question, Pudge." Damon stepped closer. The warning bell rang, and Ravi used the momentary distraction to duck around the trio and hurry down the hall, the sound of their laughter following him. He slipped into his history classroom and took his usual seat in the back corner, heart still pounding. 3 more years of this, just 3 more years. What no one at Westlake knew, what Ravi had been instructed never to reveal, was that back in San Francisco, he'd spent the last 6 years training intensively in Wing Chun under his grandfather, a renowned master who had once taught some of China's most elite fighters. Ravi had started as a chubby 9-year-old being picked on at school, and his parents had enrolled him, hoping he'd gain confidence and lose weight. But he'd shown a natural talent that surprised everyone, including his grandfather. Wing Chun. "Here's not for showing off," his grandfather had repeatedly told him. "It's not for intimidation or revenge, it's for protection. Only when absolutely necessary." When his parents announced the move to Connecticut for his mother's new job, his grandfather had given him one final instruction. "No fighting. A new place means a new beginning. Your skills are not for schoolyard squabbles." And so far Ravi had kept that promise, enduring Damon and his friends' increasing harassment with gritted teeth and controlled breathing. The techniques he practiced each morning in his bedroom weren't for bullies, he reminded himself. They were to honor his grandfather's teachings, to maintain his connection to what he'd left behind. But with each passing day at Westlake, that resolve was tested further. By the 3rd week of September, the harassment had established its own rhythm. Damon would accidentally slam into Ravi in the hallways. During gym, Ravi became the primary target for dodgeballs, thrown with unnecessary force. In the cafeteria, Tyler had taken to trying to trip him as he carried his lunch tray, resulting in 2 embarrassing spills that left Ravi's clothes stained and the cafeteria echoing with laughter. Today, Ravi sat alone at his usual table in the far corner of the cafeteria, methodically eating his sandwich while reading a book, his standard defense against the sea of students who either ignored or mocked him. "All by yourself again, Pudge." Damon's voice came moments before the book was snatched from Ravi's hands. Ravi looked up, keeping his face neutral despite his quickening pulse. "Give it back, please." Damon flipped through the pages with exaggerated interest. "What's this nerd stuff anyway? The art of war? Planning to start some trouble?" He laughed, tossing the book to Tyler, who caught it and immediately tossed it to Chris. "It's for history class," Ravi lied, standing up. "I need it back." "You need to lighten up," Chris said, dangling the book overhead as Ravi approached. He was at least 4 inches taller than Ravi, his lanky frame making the height difference even more pronounced. "Maybe we can help with that." Before Ravi could react, Tyler had moved behind him and grabbed his arms, pinning them back. Damon stepped forward, picked up Ravi's open chocolate milk carton and held it over his head. "No, don't," Ravi started, but the cold milk was already pouring down, soaking his hair, running down his face and neck, staining his white t-shirt brown. The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Even a few teachers at the supervision table seemed to be suppressing smiles. Tyler released him with a shove, sending Ravi stumbling forward. "Oops," he said with mock concern. "Looks like you had a little accident." Ravi stood frozen, chocolate, milk dripping from his chin, the familiar heat of humiliation washing over him. His hands trembled, not from embarrassment but from the effort it took to keep them from forming fists, to keep from dropping into the stance his body knew by instinct, to keep from showing these guys exactly how much damage a Wing Chun practitioner could do in the span of seconds. Not for revenge, not for schoolyard squabbles. He grabbed his soiled backpack and walked out of the cafeteria with as much dignity as he could muster, the laughter following him into the hallway. In the bathroom, Ravi stared at his reflection. Milk-soaked hair, stained shirt, eyes burning with contained fury. He cleaned up as best he could, then spent the rest of lunch period in an empty classroom, practicing breathing exercises his grandfather had taught him. Breathe in strength, breathe out weakness, breathe in patience, breathe out anger. By the final bell, Ravi had regained his composure. He waited until most students had left before heading to his locker, hoping to avoid any further incidents. The hallway was nearly empty as he gathered his books, planning to take the long way home to give himself time to clear his head. There he is, Chocolate Milk Kid. Ravi closed his eyes briefly before turning to find Damon, Chris, and Tyler approaching, joined now by two seniors Ravi recognized from the wrestling team. "We felt bad about lunch," Damon said, his tone making it clear he felt anything but remorse. "Thought we'd give you a proper cleanup." Ravi scanned his options. The hallway was empty except for them. The nearest exit was past the group. The stairwell behind him led to the second floor, where there would be even fewer people this late after classes. "I need to get home," Ravi said, clutching his backpack strap. "This'll just take a minute," Tyler said, cracking his knuckles with theatrical menace. Ravi took a step back, then another. The group advanced. In a moment of decision, Ravi turned and bolted up the stairs. "Get him!" Damon shouted, their footsteps thundering after him. Ravi's breathing remained controlled as he ran, his endurance another gift from years of training. He pushed through the door to the second floor, scanning for a teacher, a janitor, anyone who might deter his pursuers. The hallway stretched, empty before him. He'd nearly reached the end when the door to the boys' bathroom swung open and one of the wrestlers stepped out, grinning when he spotted Ravi. A setup. They'd anticipated his route. Before Ravi could change direction, strong hands grabbed him from behind, Damon and Tyler catching up. The wrestler blocked his path forward. Chris appeared moments later, breathing heavily but grinning. "Nice try." "Pudge," Damon said, his grip tightening on Ravi's arm. "But you need to learn how things work around here." They dragged him into the bathroom, Ravi still refusing to use his training despite the situation. He could break these holds in seconds, a simple wrist lock, a foot sweep, an elbow strike, but his grandfather's words echoed in his mind. Inside the bathroom, they shoved him against the wall. One of the wrestlers checked the stalls to ensure they were alone. "I think he needs a proper Westlake baptism," Damon announced, nodding toward the row of toilet stalls. Ravi's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "Don't," but they were already manhandling him toward the furthest stall, laughing as he struggled ineffectively, deliberately ineffectively, though they didn't know that. "Hold him good," Chris instructed as they forced Ravi to his knees in front of the toilet. Two sets of hands gripped his arms while another pressed on the back of his neck. "Welcome to Westlake, Pudge," Damon said, then forced Ravi's head down toward the toilet water. Ravi's restraint finally faltered. In a split-second decision, he went limp, surprising his captors with the sudden dead weight. As their grips adjusted, he tensed again but continued to let them push his head down. The cold toilet water hit his forehead, his eyes, his nose. The humiliation burned hotter than any physical pain could. They held him there for what felt like an eternity, though it was probably only seconds, before yanking him back up, water streaming down his face, soaking the collar of his already milk-stained shirt. "Next time maybe you'll remember your place," Damon said, shoving Ravi to the floor. "Let's go, guys, it stinks in here now." They left, high-fiving and laughing, the bathroom door swinging shut behind them. Ravi remained on the floor, water and tears mingling on his face. For the first time since arriving at Westlake, he allowed himself to feel the full force of his anger. His breathing quickened, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. Wing Chun is not for revenge, but as he pulled himself up and stared at his pathetic reflection, wet hair plastered to his forehead, eyes red, clothes ruined, something inside Ravi shifted. His grandfather had taught him to protect himself when necessary, and perhaps it was time to redefine necessary. He wasn't going to become a bully. He wasn't going to seek them out for revenge, but he was done being a victim. "Enough," he whispered to his reflection, his voice steadier than he expected. "Enough." Ravi spent the weekend in intense preparation. In his bedroom, with the door locked, he returned to his training regimen with renewed focus. Speed drills, precision exercises, the wooden dummy techniques his grandfather had taught him. His body remembered everything, moving with fluid grace that had once earned rare praise from his notoriously critical grandfather. By Monday morning, Ravi had made his decision. He wouldn't seek conflict, but he would no longer avoid it either. He would stand his ground. The day passed with surprising quietness. Damon and his friends were unusually absent from Ravi's path, though he caught glimpses of them in the hallways, exchanging looks and smirks whenever they spotted him. They were planning something. Ravi could feel it. The storm broke after final period. As Ravi approached his locker, he found Damon leaning against it, alone for once. "There's our favorite freshman," Damon said, straightening up. "Feeling cleaner after your special treatment?" Ravi stopped a few feet away. "Move, please." "Or what?" Damon's eyebrows rose in mock surprise. "You gonna make me?" "If I have to." Ravi's voice was quiet but firm. Damon's laugh echoed in the hallway, drawing attention from passing students who slowed to watch. "Did you hear that? Pudge thinks he can make me do something." From the corner of his eye, Ravi spotted Tyler and Chris approaching from the side, ready to flank him. A small crowd was already forming, sensing entertainment. "Last chance," Ravi said. "Move away from my locker." "Make me," Damon repeated, spreading his arms in invitation. In one fluid motion, Ravi dropped his backpack and moved forward, not with the wild swing Damon clearly expected, but with the controlled precision of Wing Chun. His hand shot out in a perfect straight punch, stopping just centimeters from Damon's chest. A demonstration of control, not an attack. Damon blinked in surprise, taking an instinctive step back. "What the?" I asked politely. Ravi said, his stance balanced and ready, just as his grandfather had taught him. "Now I'm telling you. Move," the crowd murmured. Tyler and Chris hesitated, exchanging glances. Damon's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "How you think one karate move is gonna scare me?" He lunged forward, swinging a heavy right hook toward Ravi's face. 6 years of training took over. Ravi's forearm came up in a perfect deflection, redirecting Damon's energy away, while his other hand delivered a light but precise palm strike to Damon's shoulder, sending him staggering backward into the lockers with a loud clang. Gasps rose from the crowd. Ravi remained in his stance, breathing controlled, eyes focused. "What the hell?" Damon pushed himself off the lockers, rage contorting his features. "Get him!" he shouted to Tyler and Chris. They rushed Ravi from both sides. With the calm precision that had made his grandfather finally nod in approval during their last training session, Ravi moved like water. He sidestepped Tyler's grab, used the momentum to guide him into Chris, and with 2 quick strikes, one to each boy's solar plexus, left them both gasping for air. The hallway fell silent, except for the sound of Tyler and Chris trying to catch their breath. Ravi stood unmoving, his stance perfect, his breathing unhurried. Damon looked from his friends to Ravi, disbelief clear on his face. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm the kid you decided to bully," Ravi said simply. "The kid you and your friends dragged into a bathroom and dunked in a toilet. I'm the kid who's done being your punching bag." He took a deliberate step forward, and Damon flinched visibly. "I don't want trouble," Ravi continued, his voice steady. "I never did, but I'm done taking yours." The crowd had grown larger, students whispering and pointing. Someone in the back started a slow clap that quickly spread. Ravi ignored it, keeping his eyes on Damon. "This isn't over," Damon muttered, but the threat sounded hollow as he helped Tyler to his feet. "It can be," Ravi replied. "Right now. You leave me alone, I leave you alone. Simple." Before Damon could respond, a sharp voice cut through the crowd. "What's going on here?" Students parted to reveal Mr. Harrington, the vice principal, his face stern as he surveyed the scene. "Nothing, sir," Damon said quickly. "Just talking, Mr." Harrington's eyes narrowed as he took in Damon's defensive posture, Tyler and Chris's still recovering breathing, and Ravi's calm stance. "In my office, all 4 of you, now." In the vice principal's office, the truth came out in pieces. Not just about today's confrontation, but about the weeks of harassment culminating in the bathroom incident. A review of security footage confirmed parts of Ravi's account, and 2 students from the crowd volunteered statements about what they'd witnessed in the cafeteria. "Self-defense doesn't excuse fighting on school grounds," Mr. Harrington said finally, looking at Ravi. But bullying is taken very seriously at Westlake. He turned to Damon, Tyler, and Chris. 2 weeks suspension, plus mandatory counseling. Sessions upon your return. Damon started to protest but fell silent under Mr. Harrington's glare. As for you, Mr. Chen, the vice principal continued, 1 day of in-school suspension for fighting, regardless of the provocation, and I'll be calling your parents. Ravi nodded, accepting the consequence without argument. I understand, sir. As they left the office, Damon gave Ravi a wide berth, the fear in his eyes unmistakable. Tyler and Chris followed his lead, their earlier cockiness utterly vanished. Word spread quickly. By the next morning, everyone at Westlake knew about the quiet new kid who had taken down 3 of the school's notorious bullies. The hallway chatter followed Ravi throughout his day of in-school suspension, even reaching him in the isolated classroom where he was serving his punishment. His parents had been surprisingly understanding after their initial shock. His father had listened to his explanation, then asked one question, "Did you strike first?" "No," Ravi had answered truthfully. "I defended myself." His father had nodded, then called his grandfather in San Francisco. To Ravi's surprise, after a long conversation in rapid Mandarin, his grandfather had asked to speak with him. "You remember what I taught you," his grandfather said, his accented English firm but not angry. "Wing Chun is for protection." "I know, grandfather, I didn't start the fight, but did you finish it with minimum force?" Ravi thought about the controlled strikes, the deliberate restraint he'd shown. "Yes, I could have hurt them badly. I didn't." A long pause then. "Good. This is the true mastery. Not how much damage you can inflict, but how much you choose not to." Another pause. "Perhaps it's time for you to find a proper training hall there. Your forms are probably sloppy by now." Coming from his grandfather, this was practically a blessing. The following week brought changes Ravi couldn't have anticipated. Students who had never spoken to him now greeted him in the hallways. A girl named May from his English class asked if he'd help her with an essay during lunch. Even some of the teachers seemed to look at him differently, with a new respect or perhaps just curiosity. Most significantly, Damon and his friends stayed conspicuously away. When their suspension ended, they returned subdued, giving Ravi a wide berth in the hallways. Ravi had worried he might feel guilty, that standing up for himself might somehow transform him into what he hated. Instead, he felt lighter. The constant tension in his shoulders had eased. He walked with his head up now, his eyes meeting those of his classmates instead of studying the floor. On Friday afternoon, as Ravi packed up his locker, a shadow fell across him. He turned to find Damon standing there alone, hands shoved in his pockets. Ravi's body automatically shifted into a ready stance, but Damon raised his hands quickly. "I'm not here for that," he said, his usual swagger absent. "Just talk." Ravi relaxed slightly but remained alert. "Okay." Damon seemed to struggle with his words, looking anywhere but at Ravi. "The counselor I have to see, she made me think about some stuff, about why I do what I do." He scuffed his shoe against the floor. "It's not an excuse, but my dad, he's kind of like I was with you." Ravi said nothing, letting the silence stretch. "Anyway," Damon continued awkwardly, "what I'm trying to say is, I was wrong. About you. About a lot of things." The words seemed physically painful for him to speak. Had I to you know, sorry," Ravi supplied. Damon nodded once, sharp and quick. "Yeah, that." He finally met Ravi's eyes. "We're not going to be friends or anything, but I'll leave you alone, and so will Tyler and Chris." "That's all I ever wanted," Ravi said honestly. Damon nodded again, then turned to go. He paused after a few steps. "That stuff you did, the fighting, where'd you learn it?" "My grandfather. It's called Wing Chun. It's badass," Damon admitted, then walked away. Ravi watched him go, a complex mix of emotions settling in his chest. Not triumph or revenge satisfaction, but something quieter and more profound. Standing up for himself hadn't just changed how others saw him, it had changed how he saw himself. Later that evening in his bedroom, Ravi moved through his forms with a new sense of purpose. Each position, each transition, each strike and block carried the weight of his grandfather's teaching. Wing Chun is not for showing off. It's not for intimidation or revenge. It's for protection, only when absolutely necessary. He understood now what his grandfather had truly meant. Sometimes protection meant physical defense, but sometimes it meant protecting your dignity, your self-respect, your right to exist without fear. As Ravi completed the final movement, returning to neutral stance, he felt a certainty settle in his bones. He would never be a victim again, but he wouldn't become a bully either. He would carry his strength quietly, use it wisely, and perhaps when the time was right, Share it with others who needed to learn the same lesson. At Westlake High School, the quiet new kid had found his voice, and it turned out people were finally ready to listen. Well, now I want to know, what's your opinion about this story? Leave a comment, we'd love to hear from you, and tell us which city you watched this video from. And it's not over yet. There's another powerful story playing on your screen right now. Click on it. I'm waiting for you.